This is, I think, the 42nd podcast on the power sector study, right? And it's a very exciting study. It's where we're going in and we're helping a major division of, well, it's a separate company actually. It's a huge company that's involved in the deregulated power sector space, and their job is to do work around maintenance, refurbishment of power station assets, transmission lines and distribution lines, and so on. And they are going through a transformation in the sense that they need a new corporate strategy. The revenues have collapsed. They don't know what they need to be in the next 5 years, and we're helping them think that through. So what I'm going to talk about today is a very interesting observation I made with some of the younger associates and business analysts, and how I coached one of them through this, right? So obviously, this is a very stressful project. But at the same time, it's also a very, very important project for a very important client where we are working with the most senior levels of the organization, right? And given the impact we are having and the ability for people to bolster their resumes and do pretty amazing work here, there's a lot of competition. So what I notice is that the associates are very competitive, and the business analysts. And I'm okay with people being competitive, but I think that they go about it in the wrong way, right? For example, let's assume it's about 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. at night and we're busy working in the office, right? I don't like if people stay late. It's up to them. I generally would like to go to my hotel as soon as I can. But sometimes I have to be there to review work, or I have to have a late meeting, an late update meeting, right? But generally I'm away much earlier. So anyway, I noticed this kind of discussion taking place between the analysts and the associates. The discussion goes something like this. Let's assume there's one associate called Peter and the other one called Sarah. So Peter will ask Sarah, so what are your plans for this evening? Are you going anywhere? Are you planning to go to the hotel early? And Sarah will say, well, actually, I'm really focused on getting promoted on this study and doing the best possible work that I can. So I'm going to be working late tonight to do a good job. And then Peter will respond and say, yeah, you're right. I'm also really focused about doing the best work I can and getting promoted. So I'm also probably going to work late with you. Now, this may sound like a very innocent discussion. What's happening here is that as this discussion permeates the room, everyone starts becoming competitive and staying late and working longer hours. So the point of this podcast is that you can be competitive and work long hours, but you shouldn't be seen to be competitive when you're working long hours. So this is a very subtle point. I'm not saying don't work the long hours. But what I'm saying is don't make it sound like you're competitive and that's why you're working the long hours. Because then people see you as someone who's working hard only because you want to get promoted and only because you want to stand out from everyone else. Now, the reason why this doesn't matter is that at the end of the day, at the end of the week, when I review work, I don't say, Sarah, you worked an average of 18 hours a day. I will reward you. I don't say, Peter, you worked an average of 15 hours a day. I will reward you the second most. I'll say, Emma, you worked 12 hours a day. You get the third most points for hard work and contribution. I don't care how many hours they worked. All I look at is the quality of the work they put out. So what I'm saying is happening here is that these consultants are so obsessed with telling people how committed they are, and they're working such long hours that they're moving away from the objective of getting the right work done. Now, this is what I coached the worst performer here to do. Worst performer being the biggest culprit of all, the one who does this the most. I told her, look, what you need to do is if you want to work long hours, that's fine. But when you go around telling everyone I want to work long hours because I'm committed to being promoted, I want to do the best possible work, and I don't want to be average, you're basically advertising to everyone you're competitive. And nobody likes that, and nobody wants that. And heck, even I don't want that in a project. What you should do is if you want to work long hours, you should say, look, I'd like to go home, but the client has requested this and I don't think I'll be able to finish it tomorrow unless I work on it tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on this. And as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go home. Versus the previous discussion whereby, hey, if I finish early, I'm going to take on more work because I just want to do it. Now, the dynamic of this discussion changes. Because rather than people seeing this girl, Sarah, being just this competitive person, they now see her as a diligent, disciplined, caring consultant who does what is right for the client and does great work, but she still works the same hours. So you notice how the profile of the consultant changes. She's still going to work long hours. She's still going to do what is required to get promoted, but the dynamic with the team has now changed. No one likes people who are competitive for the sake of being competitive, right? Because this is wasted energy. If you're being competitive for the sake of being competitive, you basically are wasting valuable time that you could much more, productively use resting so you could work harder later. But if they see you as someone who is, like them, but for whatever reason needs to work harder because the client needs it, they tend to like you more. They tend to relate to you better. And that dynamic becomes good for your career because people then want to help you. If people just think you are competing with them, they don't want to help you. They don't want to work with you, and that's a dynamic you need to change. Now, think about this. The result is still the same. Amount of hours worked are the same. The extra effort is still the same. The quality, let's assume it's still the same, but the image created is very different. An image in management consulting is very different, right? So when you are working on teams and so on, don't tell me you are competitive. Don't tell me you work hard. It's better to show me in your results. And the reality is that the consultant who says all these things, her work isn't the best. So what she does is she confuses the fact that if she says she works hard and the work she says she's committed, at the end of the project, the partners are going to say, well, Sarah said she was committed and she worked hard, so let's reward her. Well, we're not going to do that. We're ultimately only going to reward her if the quality of her work is great. So if it's up to me, I wouldn't even talk about working hard. I would just rely on having absolutely amazing and fantastic work because that's how you're going to be measured. Now, of course, I know there are firms out there, and I know there are organizations out there that are different. I understand that. However, if you're in a firm whereby they do reward long work, are you really telling me that if you were an exceptional associate or manager or partner who did amazing things but work less hours, they are going to promote you at a lower pace than someone who's dumb, does bad work that works less hours? No. Firms reward people that create value. And what most people get caught up into the trap of saying, look, I cannot actually be insightful and deliver good things, so I'm going to work long hours because it's easy to work long hours than to put out good work. So the very same people who are actually complaining about the culture of working long hours and late nights are actually secretively happy because they know this is the one angle they can play very well. It's easy to arrive in the office, play computer games on my phone in the men's room, and then start working only at 11 a.m. and then tell everyone, oh, I've got to work late today because I'm so busy. It's easy to do that. It's much harder to actually leave at good hours but to focus on the quality of your work. And if you are worried that, oh no, this is not true, my firm definitely doesn't reward quality, that is practically impossible. If every firm rewarded the longest working people who delivered less value, the firms would be bankrupt or very unprofitable. Despite the fact that you may not see it, the firm is obviously rewarding people that create most value. But I think what firms also do is they say that, look, if you are not that insightful, if you are not creating the most value, then maybe you should work long hours. There's some way we need to get some return out of you. So that's a trap that people fall into. And I think these consultants are falling into that trap. So one thing I've done is I've told people, look, once your stuff is done for the day, provided that you leaving doesn't disrupt the client, doesn't disrupt the study, you can go whenever you want to, but your work must not be, falling behind. I leave at 5 o'clock. Some days I'm out of there by 5 o'clock. Usually I'm out of there by 6. 6:30 for me is late unless I have a client meeting that I need to attend to. But I don't want to be there past 5 o'clock if I can help it. Why 5 o'clock? Because most of the team is there until 5 o'clock. And if they need things from me, I know that I'm around to answer the questions. But as they start peeling away and disappearing, that's fine with me. I certainly don't like to see people working long hours. It's a very horrible culture to have because it actually impacts the quality of the work. And this obsession with being competitive for the sake of being competitive again is wrong. You should be competitive to produce great work. And to produce great work, you actually don't have to be competitive. So ask yourself this. Do you want people to know you work long hours and are really committed? Or would you rather have people think that you work less hours and are not so committed, but you happen to be a genius who produces amazing work, right? That's the trade-off you're making. And the reality is that you'll always be rewarded if you produce great work. So think about what you want to be known for. And remember, being known for working long hours is a horrible life to have, because it means you have to work long hours for the rest of your life. It also means as you condition your body to do this, you become less productive, because your mind never learns how to adjust to work with less time. And the reality is I see this with a lot of young people. I see a lot of old people as well. They work long hours just to say they work long hours. And if you follow my career, I work longer hours than most people, but I'm much more productive. So I'm not working long hours just to be there. I'm working long hours because I have a lot to do and I'm producing a lot of things. And as soon as I walk away from that, I will just rest. So if you're going to work long hours, measure your output. And if your output is the same as someone who works half your time, you've got a real problem on your hands, right? It's all about the culture. Move away from being rewarded for the effort you put in and more for the quality and the impact and the value of what you produce. That counts the most. Now, as always, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have, to talk about this even further. I think it affects most people. I'm pretty sure I've done this a little bit when I was young as well, and probably some partner caught me and pushed me aside and said, look, focus on quality. And that's actually true. I do even remember the partner that made me focus so much on quality. He also showed me the impact of taking on too much, because this guy used to work all the time. My point is that be someone that creates value, not someone that people tolerate because you appear to work long hours and seem to care about what is happening. You don't want to be that person. Send in your comments, questions, queries, and I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Strategy Skills Podcast. Stay up to date on all of our latest training by signing up for our email updates on firmsconsulting.com. We look forward to helping you develop your strategy, critical thinking, decision-making, and communication skills next time here on the Strategy Skills Podcast.